All right, here's how to do the puzzles. Here's how to do your homework. What you're going to do is you're going to take and you're going to put what order of events that happened, and the oldest things are going to go on the bottom, youngest at the top. You're going to notice by each of these diagrams, there's going to be some letters there that represent different sequences, different things that happen. So I'm going to do this first one for you and just show you how it goes. So when you open this up, puzzle 0, easy puzzle, you're going to solve this using what we know about rock strata. So the one that's going to help us with this is the law of superposition. So if we look here, the thing that happened first, or that was the oldest, is we know that the bottom layer, because oldest layer is on the bottom, youngest layer is on top. So we know that first thing that happened was D. So you're going to take and you're going to drag D over to number 1. Okay? Now we know that this is the oldest, so that means whatever's on top of it is going to be younger. So we see that letter C, layer C, is going to be the next thing that happens. All right. After layer C, we notice that B is going to be on top of that, so that's got to be the next thing that happened, layer B. And then last but not least, we see layer A. That's right on top. So according to the law of superposition, we have this in order. Okay? So that's puzzle 1, or puzzle 0. Now let's check out the next one. All right? Based off the last video, we noticed that something interesting in this layer that's different is A, which is an intrusion. It's a cross-cutting relationship. So let's kind of go through and put this in order. First off, we know, start at the bottom. Layer C is going to be the first one that was laid down, so that's the oldest. Okay, so if we click on layer C, this will work with me here. All right, if I click on layer C, that's going to be the oldest. And then we know that above that, we got layer E. So that's going to be second one there. Then we've got layer D. And then we've got layer B. Now, some of you might be wondering, how do you know that it's not A and then B? Well, remember, an intrusion comes in, and anything it cuts through, it's younger than. So notice it cuts into D and B. So that means they both had to be there before A could come in and intrude. So we know that next would be B. And then last but not least, A comes in, cuts through all of it. It's an intrusion, and that's how it should be. All right, so now let's check out the next puzzle. So if you look at the next puzzle, you're going to see some interesting things. One is going to be this here. If you look at this as almost like a single layer, you're going to say, okay, well, what had to be there first? Well, if you look at these little holes here, you're going to notice it looks the same as this. So we know that rock layer C had to be there first, and then everything else happened to rock layer C. So C is going to be the oldest. Okay? Then we know that A came in and was an intrusion, and we know that that's got to be next because B cuts through both of them. So we got C, then A, and then B. Okay? All right. So that's how it goes. You kind of start with the bottom, and you work your way up. And you say, okay, if anything cuts through it, then I know that that thing cutting through it's younger. So I want you to try to do easy puzzle 3 with a shoulder partner. After you've done number 3 with the shoulder partner, and you feel confident, I want you to go ahead and do puzzle 4 by yourself. Okay? After you've done that, then what we're going to do, and you can actually pause the video here if you're ready to do that. And once you're ready and you've done those 2 things, then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to do a little bit harder one. Okay? One thing that I want to show you is if you scroll down here, the answer key starts on page 17. Now, please, 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 don't just copy what's on here. These are to help you see if you got it right. So you can go back and you can check how you did. Did you get it in the correct order? And also, this will be very important for you to look at too, because that's going to tell you something you need to understand in that puzzle. So you can go back and check easy puzzle 1, easy puzzle 2, and then all the other ones too. Okay? All right, so you can pause the video at any moment and then go ahead and press play when you're ready to try a harder puzzle. Okay, so we're going to try a medium puzzle, and that's going to be this one. All right, so if we look at this medium puzzle 1, in medium puzzle 1, we got to start at what's the bottom, and we got to work our way up, see if there's anything cross-cutting. So if we look down at the bottom, we say, okay, well, I see a lot of stuff going on here. D, it's got all these curved lines. That looks like an intrusion. B looks like an intrusion. I also look like I have a fault going on here. I see these layers that they are no longer flat. They're actually tilted. They're tilted. And then I see some nice flat layers on top. I also see some erosion. So let's try to put this in order. First, let's start with the bottom. Now we got to determine. D is an intrusion, so we know it's got to be younger than what it's cutting through, so we're not even going to start with that. Let's look at layers. So if we look here, we see that is E lower or is C lower? Well, if we look closely, it looks like C is one of those layers that is a lower layer. So we know that C has got to be the first event. So you're going to take C, and you're going to drag that over to be the oldest layer. Then we got to start looking at, okay, what's above it? Well, we know that some other layers were stacked on, and it looks like E is something that's above it, so E would come next, because D cuts through both of those. So that means it had to be there. So let's go ahead and take E, move it on over. Okay, after E, we look and we say, okay, now what's going to be next? Is it a fault that's next, or is it D? Well, if you look closely, you're going to see the fault cuts through the magma, so then the fault's got to be younger, so that's got to come a little later. So it looks like D, it would be next, the intrusion. After the intrusion, we see here, oh yeah, the fault cuts through D, but it doesn't cut through B, so we know that it's got to be the next event. So we know our fault is next, an event that happened. Now after the fault, we got to say, okay, what's going to be up higher? Law of superposition. Now we notice that F is on top of all that stuff. It's on top of the intrusion, it's on top of the other layers. So then F would be next. Right? After F, we notice that, oh, look, check that out. A is right on top of that. So A is going to be next. All right. After A, we look at, okay, what would have happened next? We see some erosion here, and it cuts through A, and it cuts through B, or sorry, it cuts through F. And so it looks like that's probably going to be the next thing, because B cuts through every other layer here. So then we've got erosion. And it looks like the very last thing is going to be an intrusion. All right. So if we wanted to check our answer, we could go through and say, okay, did we get this right? Is intrusion the top? And then is erosion the second thing? So if we go down through, first medium puzzle, check our answer. Yep, we got it right. And here's the reason why. So you'll want to check that out. Okay, at this point, you should be ready to finish the rest of those. So your homework is to finish all the rest of the puzzles. And then check your answers, make sure they're all good. And then once you're all done with that, submit that before next class. That's your homework. Okay? All right, that's it.